Hello, parents and teachers. Jill Simonian from PragerU Kids here. The unofficial theme for all of our parent alert discussions is Stop Woke Education for the month of September. And if you haven't already subscribed to PragerUkids.com, do it now. Best way to stop woke education, in my humble opinion. Matt Bedreau joins me today. Hi, Matt.
Great to see you, young lady.
I'm
Appreciate
so excited. Oh, thank you for calling me young lady. I'm excited to talk to you. You're a husband, you're a dad, you're
it.
founder of Apogee Strong, an
Well,
education system, which we're going to talk about soon. And I want to know, true or false, you're an education disruptor.
oh, I hear that's the case. Yeah, I always differentiate between educator and teacher because I think educator has a DNA concept and a DNA component that doesn't get talked about a lot. But everything we're doing is seemingly disrupting that whole system. So I'm gonna go with a solid yes on that one.
Yes, solid yes. Disruption is a good thing. Our CEO, Marissa Streit, loves disruptors and she calls them good troublemakers. And I think you, my friend, are part of that. We've known each other for a few years now. You do
Mm.
such great work. And if people have not already discovered you on Instagram, look him up, Matt Boudreau. We're going to remind you where to find him online across the internet at the end of this interview. But like I said, our theme this month, unofficial theme for our Parent Alert discussions for the month of September, is Stop Woke Education in the spirit of back to school. And we do, in fact, have a petition on our website, prageru.com/stop woke education, to get more information about how to right this ship,
Mm.
as we say, in our schools and communities. But Apogee does just that. You
Mhm.
have essentially made a decision to stop woke education. And
Mhm.
very quickly, because I want to talk about parenting with you also, but very
Mhm.
quickly, what is Apogee for parents who may not yet have heard of it?
I appreciate that. We have some rules in our home. We have a family contract, and one of the rules in our house says no complaining, fix it.
Ooh,
Right? No complaining. If it's something that is worth speaking about, is worth creating a solution. And so when we're talking about stopping woke education, we don't want our energy just in the pointing of the finger going, hey, you over there, stop it. We're going to go ahead and create the alternative. And that's what Apogee is. It is a full family educational experience. So every vertical is designed to be able to stand by its own. Education for men, education for women, education for young men, young ladies. We have a home education group. We also have K through 12 campuses that are
wow.
launching all over the world. And those campuses, yes, they're K through 12s for young people, young men, young women, but mom and dad also go through an educational experience there as well. We believe the entire family should be educated, not schooled, educated.
Because there is a difference, and I appreciate that. And that's something that, quite frankly, as a mom, before I came here to PragerU in 2021, I did not understand the difference between being educated and being schooled. But there is a
Then
difference, and I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about, before we get more into the education versus schooling topic here, I want to talk about parenting,
Mhm.
because on Instagram, let me tell you, Matt, you have a very sharp and shrewd way, in the best way possible, of really painting the picture of what a good parent is. You're a believer in raising resilient kids. And from what I know of you through following you through many years, you're even a big believer in being a resilient parent. So I cannot talk to you without jumping into this recent headline, how the
Mm.
US Surgeon General recently said that parenting is, quote unquote, hazardous to our health. And if people have not, dove into this news headline yet,
Yeah.
with the recent articles that came out, I think Wall Street Journal did a piece on this the last week or so, talking about how parents are so lonely, how there are so many stressors on parents, how it is, wearing on us to a point where it's affecting our health. I don't disagree that parenting is intense and stressful. However, I want to know what because I have certain opinions about this, but I want to know first what your opinion about this Surgeon General claiming parenting is hazardous to your health. Is he making us out to be a bunch of wimps?
The, these are the kind of headlines that I won't even dive into the article because why? Because when you and I ask any of the good humans that we know, and we know many amazing humans who are raising young people, Everybody will tell you, yeah, of course it's difficult. Of course there are hard things about being a parent. Of course, of course. You go ask people 9 times out of 10, they're, hey man, did this make your life better? I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
It's, of course it was harder than I ever thought. Everybody was a perfect parent until you had kids. And then you
Yes.
realize all of your ideas go out the window, right? And the practicality of it all sets in. So it's, yeah, much harder than you thought it was, but it's so much more rewarding too. And that to me is infinitely better for your mental health, right? And that just, again, it plays into the culture that we're buying into, as far as, mental health being something that, like, you just look around, do I have it? Do I not have it? Is it in my pocket? Is it in my backpack? Like, where is it? Versus mental health being a byproduct of the natural state of human being. By the way, a big part of the natural state of a human being is, as we grow, we recreate, we have offspring that we raise to take on our lineage. So yeah, it's headlines like that. It's just kind of, it's sad, but I just kind of chuckle and look the other way, and we're going to keep going and creating.
Absolutely. Now, I also want to ask you about being tough. I think it's a
Lloyd,
good thing to be tough. I
good.
was raised by, I want to say, tough love parents in a very loving way, in a very positive and supporting way, but they were tough. They
Sure.
had expectations that I was expected to adhere to
Right.
and mind at home and at school and in our community. How do you respond to folks that might say, well, you can't be tough as a parent. You have to be all kind and all loving all the time. It's not healthy to be tough as a parent.
Yeah, we've unfortunately, this is a human nature problem where we like to swing a pendulum, two ways, and we always go to the extremes versus taking a look at defining what things actually mean. So some people will hear tough and go, okay, well, that means I can't have a good relationship with them at all. I just need to be the dictator. I need to be the authoritarian. I need to, and of course, we don't want that. That's pendulum on one side, swinging it the other way, where it's like, sure, 4 year old, you are a sovereign individual that's fully in charge of your own life. You don't want to do anything, you don't have to. Also, clearly ridiculous. Being resilient, and a lot of the things we talk about from an educational standpoint, being resilient, being tough, which I think that's what we mean by being tough, right? Being resilient, that is the factory setting. It is our creation. Like, we didn't just, hey, by the way, get mad at somebody else, I didn't do the design on this. But that is the design of a human. We're designed to be resilient mentally and physically. So we're designed to lead a life that has some challenges. We're designed to lead a life that means an inherent level of responsibility. And the more responsibility we take on, the more problems we see, the better we get at solving those problems, which, by the way, only earns us higher level problems. But then we got to become a higher level individual, right? Again, that's a factory setting of humanity. So yeah, I believe very much we're designed to be tough. And part of our role as a parent is to foster the natural growth of that, not to get in the way of it, not to add undue hardship, but it surely isn't to get in the way of it to where they never experience it, because I promise you, life will hand it to them.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've personally noticed happening in so many of our public schools and many private schools for that matter, where
Whoa.
they have the concept of having to go through something difficult or having to require yourself to do things that are a little bit more challenging. That is now just being tossed away and abandoned. And I think it's fair to say that when we say the word woke education, quote unquote woke education, I think that wokeness is what's stripping away the ability for kids to learn to be resilient. I
Bingo.
got to ask you a tough question here. Speaking of toughness, is there such a bad is there such a thing as a bad parent?
Very much so. Very much so. Look, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. Hey, there is no such thing as a perfect parent. But one of the things Mike Glover said to me a long time ago is, perfection is not possible, but it remains the standard. That I love. We're always looking to improve ourselves in any way. So by no stretch did you ever hear me say I am the perfect parent, that there is such a thing as a perfect parent. But there are bad parents. And bad parents inherently are just parents that don't act with intentionality. It is, they're just allowing life to happen to the young people versus being intentional and doing the best of their ability. I understand we don't all come from the same sort of background. We don't have the same inherent opportunities right there in front of us right now. We've got different cards that we have been dealt, but us being intentional about doing what we can with those cards and bringing our children along, that's our goal. And if we just go, nah, Nope, sir, you're on your own, kid. Yeah, bad parent.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I want to talk to you a little bit about leadership because you are big on leadership.
Mhm,
Here's a dilemma for you.
mhm.
Someone has a very, very shy kid, shy by nature, good kid, driven, not doing anything, uh, that's compromising to values or behavior, but just very shy and likes to be the one who sits back. Can that
Mhm.
type of a kid be a leader?
You bet. What does leadership mean, right? Any of these words that we use, one of the biggest things that we talk about in our organization, whether it's on campus or with the parents that we're serving or with the young people we're helping mentor, is definition of terms, right? Socrates says the beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms. So, what does leader mean? What is a leader? How does that person show up? First and foremost, we're always called to lead ourselves. We have to lead ourselves first before we can lead anybody else. Otherwise, it's called hypocrisy. And so we have a ton of young people who are still leading because, first and foremost, they're leading by example. They might not use a lot of words. They might not be the one to post something publicly. They may struggle with getting up on a stage or getting on a call or on a podcast. Shoot, we've got young people that we still are working on them just being able to look, make eye contact, reach out, shake hands, right? But that's a step in that direction. But how do they show up in the world? How do they treat other people? How closely are their actions aligned with their purported values? When you have somebody that puts those two things together, that person is leading. It may not be as publicly as other people would want, or sometimes parents want, but they're leading. And that's a step in that right direction.
I like that. How do you lead your family? And this is full disclosure. You're probably going to recognize this question because I found it so fascinating and very important. I found it on your Instagram, by the way.
Mhm.
How do you lead your family in a way that encourages kids to tackle the hard topics
Mhm.
and come to their own conclusions? And here's my additional question: what
Ooh.
happens if the child comes to a conclusion that might fly in the face of the values that you're aiming to cultivate at home?
Gosh, I love that question. I wish more people would ask these kinds of questions. Truly, I wish they would. Right. So what we're talking about here is raising critical thinkers. And so first and foremost, us leading by example, us as parents. I always say your young people are going to do what you do before they do what you say.
Mhm.
You leading by example, the best way to educate your family is for you to extend your own education, for you to continue to grow, and then you take your kids along with you. Right. And the example that I often give is I'll say, Joe, I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and I'm going to say, your kids know how to speak English. Why do they know how to speak English? Well, because you speak it in your home. It's not more difficult than that, right? That's the standard. That's normal for you. You
Yeah.
guys don't speak, maybe you don't speak Chinese. Why? Well, because we don't speak Chinese. So they don't speak Chinese because Jill doesn't speak Chinese. Everything goes that way. So if I want my children to be educated, I need to make sure I'm educated and I bring them along and go, this is what daddy's doing. This is how we do this in our house. Come take a look at the process. That becomes their habit, right? So same thing with thinking critically. I first need to model it for them. I need to show them, man, this is what the world is saying. This is what we believe. But here's why we believe it. This is where I came to that conclusion. And here's the journey there. Because I actually used to think this. Here's where I changed my mind. Here's what that
Hmm.
looked like. Here's who helped me change my mind. Changing your mind is hard. You got to be brave because sometimes you change your mind and you make a decision that other people don't like. And so then what? So there's a series of these kinds of conversations. It's a series of putting great literature in front of them and we tackle the literature together. And then you can take it out of this emotional context of, oh, it's me or it's you. No, it's the protagonist of this book who is now going in the face of the culture. And look, what would you do if you were in his or her shoes? How would you tackle that? And it's the process of us taking a look at every idea that we hold near and dear to our hearts and going, an educated person is willing to earn the right to have an opinion on anything because he or she can argue against himself or herself better than anybody else can. That's the way we take a look at things in our family and go, look, we have to be able to argue the counterpoints
Hmm.
better than anybody else. This is what dinner time conversations look like in our house. It's this.
It's
It's
good.
what are those things we hold dear, and how do we just pick those apart and change those minds? I think it was Orson Scott Card said we question all the beliefs we question all of our beliefs except for the beliefs we really believe, and then we fail to question. And
Mhm.
we want to just make sure we're diving in, and that's what critical thinking looks like. So it's modeled in our house that way.
Do your kids, are they at the age yet where they have started to roll their eyes and say, okay, dad, enough already, enough,
Uh,
enough, enough?
they we thankfully don't have the kind of relationship where they roll eyes. They've been encouraged to be inquisitive, and it kind of goes back to what you said earlier. Like, we've got to be patient as parents. One of the hardest things we can do is to tackle our need, because we have this need with everybody. I want Jill to see my point of view
Right.
on everything right now. So we don't do a good job of civil discourse with each other. We don't do a good job of asking each other questions to get the other person to think. Because I'd rather tell Jill what to believe, because this is what I believe. I'd rather tell her right now versus ask her some questions that make her go, interesting. And then have her come back to me 3 months later and go, ooh, that's when change actually happens. We've got to train ourselves to do the same thing with our young people. It's like, yes, look, there's rules in the house, 100%. But if you believe something and you're trying to get them to believe it, understanding that asking them great questions if they're on a different path and having them come to those conclusions themselves, that's where it actually sticks.
Yeah.
That's what sticks. We just have to be patient. We're bad at it. As humans, we're bad at it.
I got to tell you, just right now, everything you said, it's not like I've never heard it before, but it light bulbed in my mind because I needed to hear it again. We have been so very unfortunately conditioned for that instant gratification. And as a mom, I realize that I fall into that trap all the time, thinking, why aren't they getting it now? Why aren't they getting it now? Thank you, Matt. I need to be patient.
It's all of us. It's a reminder for myself too, right? And where do we see this a lot in, we look at spiritual pursuits too, and
Yeah.
families raising children in a specific religious belief. And so many of the parents who really hammer home the no, this is what we believe, and this is it, and this is it. And you see their young people stray so far away.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. But man, I just can't help but think, what if they were allowed and encouraged to ask those questions and go, man, that's a really good question. Because by the way, Yisrael means those who engage with and contend with God,
Hmm.
those who question and wrestle with. So he's telling us to do it too. What if we did that with our kids and went, wrestle, ask the questions? Oh my gosh, I'm going to be co-curious with you. I don't know the answer to that. Let's go look together. I promise you're going to have an individual that maintains that curiosity. They're more likely to own answers that they eventually get to. If truth is truth, ultimately, it's not going to need to be defended by your impatience. They're going to
Hmm.
get it. So encourage those questions. Be co-curious with them.
Oh, you just kicked off my back to school in the best possible way. Thank you. Okay, we're going to talk right now. Apogee
Yes,
education. So I admittedly, don't judge. I did not know what the word apogee meant. I had to look
ma'am.
it up, call this a total fail on the
Yeah.
education system that I was brought up in because, yes, I am a product of public schools. Okay. And I was a fervent public school advocate. But when I look at your new endeavor, Apogee, I thought, what does that word mean? So I looked it up. Here's the definition, people. If anyone else is like me, apogee's definition means highest point,
Love them.
culmination. And the second I saw that right there, I got it. So tell me, Matt, what is Apogee as your educational? Should I call it an institution? That sounds so formal. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, it does sound formal. And maybe it's an organization, but it's an organization that's not, geared towards making people be a part of our organization forever. It's an organization geared towards sovereignty, because at the end game of being an educated human, as far as we can tell, is becoming sovereign. So Tim Kennedy is my business partner on this, and more than just a business partner. I mean, he's a dear friend. He's one of my favorite humans on the planet. He's a brilliant man. Everybody knows he's a dangerous dude for sure, but he's a brilliant husband. He's an amazing father. He cares about humans, and so that's why we're partnered together on this. But it is an organization that is really here to disrupt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Education for the entire family. It is We've designed verticals that are specific towards men, women, young women, as well as people who are home educating and people that are building campuses. All of these verticals come together on a campus, but they're all designed to be able to stay alone too. And really, at the end of the day, it is an educational experience for anybody that comes in. So if Jill came into the women's program, she would be there in an educational experience, taking on projects and challenges. It's not just listening to lectures, it's taking on projects and challenges every month. It's specific readings. You're doing it with a group of humans who share your values. You're being coached through it. And you're also meeting with some of the best mentors on the planet every single week so that you can ask questions to them directly. That's the
And
way we.
it's for kindergarten through 12th grade, and it's more of an independent program, or is it a series of actual schools?
So our physical campuses, the K through 12s, are physical campuses.
Oh, wow.
These are physical campuses all over. So we've got about 50 that have launched this fall, another 50 launching next fall, all over the U.S., Canada, Australia. And we're going to have continuous open enrollment after this for those that want to come in and launch a physical K through 12 campus. So young men, young women going to the campus. When your young people go to that campus, mom and dad also become a part of Apogee Man and Apogee Woman.
Wow.
So they are also going through this educational experience with all of the other parents from all the other campuses, as well as other people who just want that sort of education from all over the world. So it is a yes and to all of that. So there is physical components and virtual components, and it all comes together to serve the whole family.
What's the website where people can find out if there's an Apogee near them?
It's a great question. Go to apogeestrong.com, click on the schools link, and we've got a map that's up. Anytime we have a new owner come in, an affiliate owner, this is not a franchise, it's an affiliate. Think more like CrossFit, right? Where somebody wants to bring this to their community.
Oh, wow.
We partner with them to show them how to do it well and how to run the business of launching an educational program in their community. So you hit the schools tab, bring up that map, and you can see if there's one near you. And if there's not, you can apply to open one.
Wow. Now, if someone is enrolled in a public school, are they able to sign up for your program independently, or it doesn't work that way?
It's a great question. So the K through 12 campuses, if you're going to a public school, you're likely not going to go to a public school as well as the K through 12 campus. It'd be like going to a public school and a private school simultaneously. But what we have a lot of young people doing, we've got young men's and young women's programs that start at 12 from a virtual standpoint
Okay.
as well. It's just kind of that 12 to 18-year-old range. We have a lot of public school students who will also simultaneously do that program. Again, same thing. Projects and challenges every month. They work on building out a digital portfolio. It's a leadership portfolio that they can use for college entrance or grabbing jobs. And they're, again, working with mentors, the best mentors on the planet. When I say the best mentors on the planet, I mean, I don't want to name drop, but it's the best mentors on the planet.
I was going to ask for name drop. I was going to say, can you give me an example of one of these monthly projects?
Right. So for the parents, they're going to dive into their own personal psychology and have to build out kind of this psychological profile for themselves. They're building out their schedule and getting into their chief definite aim. Physical fitness, spiritual steel manning, where they're steel manning their spiritual beliefs, arguing a different point of view. Intentionality around creating family legacy, intentionality around relationships in marriage and in parenting, diving into the 1041 tax system to get financial education, community leadership, all that on the men and women's side. The young people are doing things like interviewing CEOs and law enforcement officers and first responders. They're going out and doing public speaking challenges. They're doing service challenges in their neighborhood. They're doing a paperclip challenge where they take a paperclip and they have 30 days to just learn how to trade up and see with no money exchange, what can you trade up? We had a young man get his first truck, no money spent, started with a paperclip, traded all the way up to getting his first truck, right? So they're taking on all of these things while having conversations every week with, a conversation with Andy Frisella, and then a conversation with, Frank Grillo or Brian Callen and Tulsi Gabbard and Bedros Keuilian and Charlie Kirk has come in.
Wow.
And I mean, it's a litany of just amazing humans who have poured into these young people and into the moms and dads. It's the flipping best.
So this sounds like a family elevation reinvention. I
Yes,
mean, I
ma'am.
know it's, when we say education, these
People think
kids aren't
school.
just learn. Yeah, because I do. I
People
think
think
school. I
school.
think, are they learning
We think
algebra?
making
Are they
humans
learning
better.
geometry?
Right. And
So,
I don't know geometry. I got an A in geometry, but I don't know geometry.
right, as like most of us
Pass
did.
geometry right now because it didn't matter to me. It matters to some people, and that's great. They should dive into it further.
Mhm.
What I'm doing, I don't need geometry. That's not my thing right now,
Hmm.
right? So that's part of the problem. That's what schooling, that's why schooling and education are so different. Schooling is the religion that says everybody this thing, same time, no matter what, man, woman, whatever. If you're 13, this is what you need to do, and this is what you need to. That's provably silly. It's provably false. If that was the case, why doesn't that keep going? I'm 44. Am I doing the same thing as every other 44-year-old? And if I'm not, am I not at 44-year-old grade level? Am I ahead? Am I behind? All of these things are made up with the religion of school. What you said, this whole family getting better, that's what education is. That's what it's for.
So it is difficult though, and I'm just going to be very
Of course.
transparent with you. It is very difficult to unwind that ingrained philosophy. And I got to ask you, what is your defense for when people say, listen, all of this is great, but my kid needs to know how to do calculus in order to go to college so that he or she can become the doctor that they dreamed of.
That's what's yeah, and I appreciate that question because it is hard to undo that mindset. It is a religion. If you take somebody out of a cult that they've always been in, and you're like, look, this is how life actually works. They're like, okay, yeah, but what are they going to want to do? They're going to want to do the cult stuff because they haven't been able to unwind that. So I get that it is tough. I always approach it one with a level of empathy that I've had to learn to approach it because I used to thunder them and go, okay, well, let's think about this, right? And that
Yeah.
doesn't work for everybody. So again, it's being patient on my side and asking those questions. Okay, so does your child actually want to be? Because that's what I get all the time. What if they want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer? My first question is always, do they? 90% of the time, the answer is no. They just want to repeat the points that they think they're supposed to make. 90% of the time, the answer is no. Let's say the answer is yes. Okay, great. So then what do they need in order to get their medical degree? What are you looking at? Well, they got to go to college. Great. Sounds good. How do you get into college? You got to get good grades and get a good SAT. Okay, that's one way. Do you think there are other ways that actually work at getting into college? Have homeschooled children gotten into college?
Yes.
Of course. They actually get in, and I know this from working in admissions a lot of times, at a higher clip, and they may even have a completely different application process.
Wow.
You bet. Do they always need calculus to get into college? They don't. Um, what is one of the best ways to get into a lot of colleges is to not even graduate from high school. What are you talking about? Well, you don't have to graduate from high school. You start just taking junior college credits as a 16, 17-year-old, get your AA, and at 18, you're actually applying as an adult transfer. And a lot of times that actually weighs higher and you can get into college that way. And by the way, there's thousands of colleges. And if you don't get into one, you might get into it. College is not this hard thing to tackle. It's not a hard thing to get into. Wait a year and go in as an adult transfer. There's a million ways to skin this cat to get in there and ultimately go get into medical school. And that comes down to, once you get into school, passing some courses and passing some standardized tests. But hey, by the way, that still doesn't make you a good doctor.
Mhm.
That's just playing the game to get there, right? So that's all we're talking about as a game.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, what game is worth playing? What game does my family want to play? What elements of the game do we want to play over here so that we can get to ultimately what we want to do, which is lead a great life?
Yeah.
The game of school and the game of life are not the same games.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. And it is admittedly very difficult for some parents, me included in this group of some parents, to
Good.
unwind our minds from this. But, talking to people like you, I'm starting to understand that, like you said, there are many ways to skin a cat. And learning how to do that, I mean, the opportunities and the results, I think, really are infinite. And there's so many of us that are just trying to figure that out. I Before we go, and before we spill where to find you online, I got to ask you a question about failure. On your Instagram, you've had many posts about the gift of failure and how failure can be a great positive thing, which I do absolutely agree with. At
Mhm.
what point, and perhaps maybe you have a point that you can speak to directly, at what point does a parent need to step in and say, okay, enough of the failing? We have tried to fail forward and have tried to give you the gift of failure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. At what point should a parent step in and say, we're going to stop this failure, to
Yeah.
make sure that you get to where you need to go? Or is there
Yeah.
a point?
I like that question. And it obviously begs the question of, well, what is the scenario here where the failure is continuous, right? That it begs the point of that because, if you're talking about them learning to walk and they've fallen down 10 times, do you tell them, it's just not for you?
No.
It's all like, no, because they're going to get there and it's okay if they fall down 20, 50, 100, you're going to get there, right? So it begs the question of what scenario are we talking about? My bigger concern, and I would posit that the better question is, um, are we providing them all the opportunities to be successful at the end of those failures? That to me is a better question. What is it that they're failing at? And are they failing in a way that is moving them forward towards something that's worth pursuing? And are we setting up the environment for them to have the best possible chance? Because I think a lot of times when parents give up because they're seeing failure over and over and over again, and however they're defining that, there's one of a couple things happening. Somebody's failing at something they shouldn't even be trying at. I'm not worried about my kids getting really, really good at something that doesn't matter anyways,
Mhm.
right? So that's not even a thing. But I think sometimes we're also allowing for so many other distractions at the same time that we're not even giving them the opportunity to be successful. So I think that's a better question: is are we creating that environment? And then looking at it from the lens of just any other human. Kids aren't practicing to be people. They're not failing on the way. They're people
Yeah.
with less practice. So is it an unreasonable thing that any adult would be like, this is too much time for an adult and you're not doing anything else?
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the way to take it, into account, but that's a hard thing to do as a blanket statement.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate you, what you're doing so very much, opening our minds, stopping woke education
Of
in your
course.
own independent way, which is really, like I said, educating the rest of us for different ways how to do things. I think it is so invaluable. Where can everyone find you online? I know you have your own Instagram, Matt Boudreau, but Apogee also has an Instagram.
Yes, ma'am. Apogee program for the Instagram, and Apogee Strong is where to go for everything. You'll be able to get links to, the schools, the programs, the foundations, the payment process. I mean, all the things we're doing to try to make this available and accessible to everybody. So yeah, the website's the way to go. And again, just grateful for you and the work you're doing too. It matters so much. And that's one of the best compliments I ever got was from Seth Godin, who said, hey, you're doing work that matters. And that really stuck with me. And I want you to know you're doing the same. So
Oh,
grateful to be
thank
on this.
you. Thank you. We're trying. We are trying. Listen, everybody, look up Matt, look up Apogee. Definitely worth your time. Give you another way to skin that cat. I like that. I like that metaphor, Matt, in case you haven't noticed.
I do too. I was a kinesiology major in college and I had to skin a cat one time. So maybe that's what stuck with me.
You've
So
actually done it. That's why you're so resilient. That's why you believe in,
yeah,
tough talking, because you've done it.
yeah,
You've
that's
walked
great.
the walk.
That's right.
Um, For more conversations like this, everyone, definitely visit prageru.com/parent alert. You can also visit our website to stop woke education, to sign our petition, because stopping woke education is the key to raising resilient and capable kids who can, in fact, do whatever they want to do. Matt Boudreau, God bless you so much. Until next time, we'll see you all later.